It's been almost 4 years since we got an album from Jay-Z, and I'm happy to say this was worth the wait. What is going on, everybody? I go by the name of Kari, and I want to thank you guys for joining me here today as we talk about Jay-Z's new album, 444. If you've been lucky enough to be able to listen to the album like I have, you understand that this, just on the first 5 listens, that this might be one of Jay-Z's best projects. And I'm not just talking currently, I'm talking period. Well, let me not get ahead of myself. Today we're gonna go through each track and we're gonna talk about what it means, and I'm gonna give you guys my personal opinion of the album as a whole. The album starts off with the track called Kill Jay-Z. I've seen this type of thing done previously with artists like T.I., where they have like this multiple personality thing that's going on. T.I. did it with T.I. versus Tip back in the day. Interestingly enough, I noticed, and I don't know if you guys did too, that the Jay-Z was not hyphenated. And a lot of people have been talking about the fact that when Jay-Z is hyphenated, that means that he's getting back to something real special. I don't know if that has something to do with this or not, but all I'm saying is that in the title, Kill Jay-Z, there's no hyphen in it. This track actually goes in on a couple of things. First of all, he's killing off himself, or his old ego, his alter ego, the braggadocious dude that didn't care about women, that didn't care about life, that was running around doing crazy things, and most importantly, the Jay-Z that was the topic of Beyonce's Lemonade album. But then he's also taking a couple shots at a couple of people that he's been talking about. He addresses a lot of things that he doesn't talk publicly about. Jay's a very calculated dude. He doesn't talk publicly about things that people say on the internet, but he's watching. And this album lets you guys know that he's watching and seeing everything that's going on. And just because he didn't immediately say something about it, doesn't mean that he wasn't cooking something up in the back of his mind. Not only is he taking a shot against himself and his old personality, but he's also taking a couple of shots at Mr. Kanye West. On the track, he specifically points out that he actually gave Kanye West $20 million only for Kanye to rant about him for 20 minutes on stage. You all remember that famous rant where Kanye was pleading Jay-Z not to send killers after him. He even goes on to say, "You dropped out of school, you lost your principles." What up, college dropout reference? He also goes on to talk about the 2014 Met Gala incident that everybody has seen, where Solange brutally attacked him in the elevator and the security guards had to pull her off of him. He said, "You egged Solange on knowing all along all you had to say was you was wrong." Jay is really hard on himself on this album for a lot of different reasons. You see a deeper, darker side of Jay-Z. He also throws what I saw was a shot at Future by saying in the future other niggas playing football with your son. And then he actually threw a jab at Eric Benet, saying you almost let the baddest girl in the world get away. Don't be an Eric Benet. Eric Benet actually responded with a tweet of his own saying that he in fact still had the baddest woman in the world, or what he considered the baddest woman in the world. He also references his song from back in the day called You Must Love Me, in which he admitted to shooting his brother. And then he also talked about an incident with a gentleman named Un, where he actually stabbed him, and that became national news as well. In my opinion, it's an amazing way that Jay opens up this world. He's opening himself up to set the pace for what ultimately becomes an extremely intimate, personal, and vulnerable album. The second track is called The Story of O.J. This is a standout track already, so much so that Jay actually created an animated video that shows cartoon characters in blackface, similar to the cartoon characters of the 40s and 50s, where racial stereotypes were more widely accepted and even animated and sensationalized in cartoons. The Story of O.J. is basically a wake-up call for black folk. It's Jay saying, hey, listen, I don't care what you think you are out here in these streets, you're still a nigga at the end of the day, and you're gonna be treated as such. So the only way that you can combat that racial stereotype that you're never gonna get away from is by building wealth. True wealth, generational wealth. And that's a topic that Jay hits on many times throughout this album. Setting yourself up for your future and foregoing some of the things of today in order to get the great things of tomorrow. It's a powerful message if you listen to it. There's a sample that's by Nina Simone from a song called 4 Women. Now that song chronicles 4 different women's stories as they deal with racism in different ways in America. No ID did an amazing job, as he always does, choosing that sample. The song opens up with Jay-Z talking about O.J. Simpson, who was rumored to have said something to the effect of, "I'm not black, I'm O.J." Symbolizing that O.J. felt that he was above racial oppression because of the wealthy and privileged lifestyle that he lived based on his success. Jay is here to tell him that's not the case. You're still you, and there's no amount of money that can cover up the fact that you're black. If you guys have the opportunity, please watch that video, watch the animated video. They do an amazing job portraying the message of the song that he's trying to get across about financial empowerment, about financial independence, and again, about building generational wealth. Now the third song, I feel like is gonna get slept on a little bit because it could get overshadowed by the rest of the songs on here. But the third track on this album is an extremely important track. It's called Smile, and it features his mother, Gloria Carter. Now in this song, we learn a very deep secret about his mother, which is that she is homosexual. Quoted in this song by him saying, "Mama had 4 kids, she's a lesbian, had to pretend so long, she's a thespian." Jay also takes the time on this track to talk about building black entrepreneurship, again, an underlying topic that's laced throughout the entire album. And he also makes note of it talking directly to Jimmy Iovine, saying Jimmy Iovine needs to respect the Elohim. Elohim, of course, being a word for God, saying that he's got to respect the God because it's a new regime. And finally on this track, we get a beautiful poem that's recited by his mother, Gloria Carter, that talks about living your freedom and living your best life. And you can tell in the poem that she is finally finding her freedom and living her best life by living out of the closet, living in her world of happiness and of love. And by all means, we support that decision as well of hers. So shout out to her. One last thing that I want to talk about that's actually going to segue into track 4 is the fact that he again talks about black entrepreneurship and the fact that we need to own our own things and we need to build our own businesses. Prince had a conversation with Jay-Z as he talks about in the next track that I'm going to talk about. And you can tell that by listening to this and listening to the next track that Jay and Prince had a pretty serious conversation before his passing. That brings me to track 4, which is called Caught in Their Eyes. Now this song features Frank Ocean, and Frank of course does an amazing job singing on the hook of this song. This song, Jay basically talks about snakes in the grass. In the music industry, he talks about how people can be really shady and really shifty, and now he doesn't really have an appreciation for them, but he still keeps a watchful eye on them. Anybody remember Unreasonable Doubt? So I keep one eye open like CBS. But most notably, like I was talking about with the previous track, in this track he goes a little bit deeper with the conversation that he had with Prince. Now for those who don't know, Jay-Z and Prince became very close during the last year of Prince's life. And in doing so, they actually inked a deal where Prince gave Tidal exclusive streaming rights to all of his music. A good move for Jay-Z, a great move for the business, and a powerful move as far as black entrepreneurship. Now the problem is that after Prince passed away, his lawyers and his estate got involved with the liquidation of all of his assets, ended up turning his home into a museum where they sold tickets, and basically they did anything to make $1 off of Prince's name. Jay-Z calls out the lawyers specifically in this song, and he shares his disgust with the way that they've handled Prince's business after the artist's untimely passing. There's a lot going on in that track. Powerful. Now, track 5, which is the title track, 444. This track is undoubtedly the core of this entire album. Jay did an interview with iHeartRadio during the release of 444 in which he said this track was so special to him, he wanted to make sure that he put it directly in the middle of the album. Now, the album itself is only 10 songs. 444 is number 5, directly in the middle of the album, just like he wanted. Now the track itself is exactly 4 minutes and 44 seconds long. Jay also said that he woke up in the middle of the night at 4:44 in the morning to write the song because he had so much on his mind that was pouring out of him. This song, no doubt, is the most vulnerable I think we've ever seen Jay-Z ever. In an interview, on wax, on an album, on anything. He's very remorseful for his actions, not just for the actions that he did against Beyonce, but for the actions of all the women that came before him. He goes into detail about stillborns and miscarriages that happened as a result, he feels, of his not being there, his absence. And I'll be very honest with you guys, I related to this track probably more than any other track on this album, because I felt that way a lot. In my past, I was definitely a womanizer. I messed with a lot of women, I slept with a lot of women, and had to endure a lot of miscarriages. I have one son right now, but I've gotten women pregnant about 6 times. And out of those 6 times, we've dealt with abortions, we've dealt with miscarriages. And when you deal with miscarriages and abortions and things like that, it really does something to you internally. You know, it makes you feel that you can go through life pretty well despite that happening to you, but there really isn't a day that goes by that you don't think about it. And you can tell in this song that Jay thinks about it a lot, just like I think about it a lot. And it's something that we don't really talk about, and it's something that we like to kind of sweep under the rug. But I really appreciate the fact that Jay touched on that. And not only did he touch on that, but he gave us a very real perspective about how you feel as a man when you go through that. You know, we're always taught to put on, you know, the braggy exterior and to have a lot of, you know, masculinity about us. But I feel that men in a lot of ways are actually more emotional than women, especially when it comes to matters of the heart, like children. You know, sometimes we make decisions that we don't really understand the ramifications of until later on in life. And then we look back and we realize what we've done, and all we can do is pray for forgiveness every day. And hopefully somebody up there is listening and actually does forgive us for that. But more importantly than that, we actually have to forgive ourselves. If we don't forgive ourselves, we have a really hard time moving on through life. And that's what Jay is saying here. He's saying that he's had such a tough time forgiving himself that he's actually repeated a lot of those same actions from the past. And in doing so, he's hurt more and more women, including Beyonce. So this track is not just an apology to Beyonce, while he's actually admitting some things that he's done. Apparently, according to this track, he had a menage a trois, and Beyonce came to him and said, "Was that worth blue? Are you willing to risk blue and to risk your family for Becky with the good hair?" He actually talked about when they first started dating, when he asked her to be with him. The way that he asked her to be with him was, "Don't embarrass me." He actually told Beyonce, "Don't embarrass me." What kind of balls do you have to tell Beyonce, "Don't embarrass me"? And what we saw in Beyonce was this evolution of independence through her music and personally that I don't even think Jay was ready for. He then goes on to talk about his fear for having to explain to Blue all the things that she'll probably end up seeing on the internet as she gets older, about what her father did, about Lemonade, about this album as well, and about all of the different things that her mother and her father dealt with behind the scenes. Honestly, this song is gonna go down as one of those timeless songs. It's gonna be around for a long, long time to come. Now, track 6 is called Family Feud. The title has a double entendre. First of all, just like the game show that Steve Harvey hosts, he says he's got a stash that couldn't fit in a Steve Harvey suit. Classic Jay-Z sort of references. But it has a deeper meaning in the song as well, which is the division in the family being hip-hop, rappers, and musicians in general, African-American musicians, between older generations of rappers and younger generations of rappers, and about how they've been feuding for a long time, not accepting of each other's culture. He calls a lot of the older rappers out saying, "Hey, while you guys are calling these guys weird over here, don't forget that Tupac had a nose ring too." A lot of those older rappers that seem to respect Tupac and his nose ring seem not to respect these new rappers who also wear nose rings, or their clothes may be different, or they may sound different in their music. They have a message that they're trying to get across, and Jay respects and understands that. To me, what was really amazing is how fast this album got put out and how fast Jay wrote this album, because there's a reference on this track where he talks about Al Sharpton taking selfies. Al Sharpton's selfie photos just came out maybe a week ago. So how he was able to already throw that reference into the song that made it on this album, Jay had been working on this album probably up until about a couple of days before it even came out. He also makes a really cool reference to The Godfather Part 2, which we talk about the decline of the Corleone family, of Michael Corleone, and about how that parallels with his own life, and about how he has declined, his spiritual decline, and about how Beyonce actually has helped out his spiritual growth as well. So it's a really, really nice track all put together. Next up, we have track 7, which is Bam by Damian Marley. This track right here is gonna be the track that when Jay goes on concert, is gonna make the whole crowd go crazy. If you've ever been to a Jay-Z concert, when he says Hov, the pyrotechnics go up and the flames go up and the crowd goes insane. Jay's been on this kind of emotional ride for the last couple of songs, but please don't ever get it twisted. Like, I'm still from the hood. I'm still the one that would get up and go sell the drugs. I'm still the one that would make this stuff happen. I'm still that guy. Jay let his old self re-emerge that he was trying to get rid of. He let that guy come back for one more song. Jay actually talks about Instagram. There's actually an Instagram account that's called Tell 'Em Blanco Sent You, which is a nod to the Notorious B.I.G. song called Niggas Bleed, that Jay-Z has actually, referenced before. He's referenced a lot of Biggie lyrics, but here specifically, that's an Instagram account that you can go to, and it features a lot of different pictures of rappers from the early 90s, Jay-Z included. So basically he's saying, when you get to hell, tell him Blanco sent you. And I think that's kind of a nod to that one. But really, really dope song. Not a long song. It's more like an interlude type of pace. It's about 2.5 minutes long. But man, this song just gets you so amped up and so fired up. It's like a nice jolt of energy in the middle of the album. The next track is Moonlight. As you guys remember, back during the Oscars, when there was a big faux pas on stage and La La Land was called the best picture of the year when it was actually Moonlight, Jay kind of pays an homage to that by saying, we're here in La La Land, even when we win, we still lose. Basically what this song is talking about is how everybody seems to be doing the same things out here, regardless of of the warning signs that he's been trying to tell people exist out here in the music industry. To me, this is kind of a cautionary song for a lot of new artists that are coming up, a lot of new rappers that are looking to sign deals and are looking to get into these crazy contracts with these record labels that really take them for pretty much everything that they got. And he's saying that he really doesn't see anybody differentiating themselves from anybody else out here. It's like everybody's doing the same thing, everybody's wearing the same watches, everybody's got the same flow, and you know, where are the different people? Where are the people that are doing some new stuff and some different stuff? He also talks about people who like to be internet thugs and internet gangsters, Twitter finger type of dudes. He talks about people having fake Dracos in their videos, and he talks about how where he's from, they're really about that life. They don't just get on the internet. He said he doesn't post anything on the internet. He said he only poses threats. Shout out to Lenny S for that. That was a clever wordplay as well. For the photographer, Lenny S, he's a photographer for Rock Nation that works with Jay and a bunch of other artists. So he only poses for pictures that Lenny S is taking. So clever wordplay on that as well. Now, the next joint is called Marcy Me, and it pays homage to Brooklyn, New York. Marcy Projects, of course, where he's famously from and where he grew up at. Basically, it's just a track reminiscing on, you know, all the events of yesteryear, the things that were going on back then, what was happening back in those times when Lisa Bonet was Beyonce. He talks about when Pam was on Martin, when Mike was losing to Isaiah, when Rodman was a Piston, you know, all these things that were happening back in the days. And he's kind of reminiscing on what was going on back in the late 80s and the early 90s, and just basically what it means to him. He also, you know, pays homage to everybody who didn't make it out. He calls them all the murderers turned murals, but basically, you know, people who got their faces painted up on the buildings because they didn't make it out, but they were heavily respected in the hood. It's something that you roll your windows down on an afternoon, and you just kind of think back and you sit back and you just reminisce on things. And that's exactly what Jay was doing on this song as well. So really solid. My favorite part of this song actually is the end. The Dream actually comes on and he sings the rest of the song out. The last track on the album is called Legacy, and it starts out with Blue Ivy saying, "Daddy, what's a will?" And that just sets the tone for the entire song. Basically, the first half of this song talks about generational wealth, and basically it's him almost speaking his will in the song. He's saying where he wants his money to go when he's no longer with us. He says, you know, he wants some to go to his nephews, some to go to his brother, his sister, his aunts, different people in his family. He also says that he wants Blue to have a stake in Rock Nation and Douce Champagne Company, Tidal, all of that. So basically he's just giving instructions about keeping the money in the family, keeping generational wealth going from generation to generation, and making sure that everybody in his family is taken care of. That's really, again, been the underlying theme of this entire album, is what happens after me, what happens in the future. You know, I'm coming to peace with myself, and as I come to peace with myself and I'm getting on in my years, what happens after me, who's after me, and how can I make sure that the people after me are taken care of. So that's the first half of the song. The second half of the song goes into a little more detail about his relationship with his father, and about how his relationship with his father actually led to his not liking religion. Basically, he talks about how his father, or his grandfather for that matter, his father's father was a preacher, and about all the issues that they encountered in their family, and about how it made him actually go out and study Muslim and Buddhist and Christian and a lot of different cultures and religions. And as a result of that, he always felt like he was trying to catch up, because he always felt like the secrets of his family put the whole history of their entire family back. And as a result of that, they felt like they had to run even faster just to keep up with the rest of the world. And he calls it the Red Queen's race. If you Google Red Queen's race, you can see it's the ideology that you actually have to work twice as hard just to keep up with the status quo. The sample on the beat says, one day we'll all be free. And that's really what he's trying to end the album on, is the idea that we're all going to be free because we're all going to invest in ourselves and build ourselves up and own some things for ourselves. So it's really a fitting end to the album. I'll tell you guys, this is probably his best album that he's come out with, I would honestly say, since Reasonable Doubt. You know, you can tell that even in 10 songs, again, this is a very short album. The album is maybe 30, 40 minutes long. It's not a long album by any means. It's only 10 songs, but the content that's in this album is so thought-provoking and so deep and just so real and so transparent. I haven't seen this level of transparency from Hov since Reasonable Doubt. you know, and that's just because back in 96, you know, when he was making Reasonable Doubt, he had one foot in the streets, one foot out. And so all he knew to talk about were the things that he had been through, you know. So he has a song called, you know, Regrets, and you know, The Evils off that. And of course, my favorite song of all time, which is Dead Presidents 2, you know, but it gives you that real raw, gritty look from where he was at that point in time. Here with 444, we get that same level of transparency and introspection, but we get it in 2017. We get it after he's gone through 13 albums worth of experiences and drama and ups and downs and trials and tribulations and successes and failures and, you know, investments and losses and things of that nature. And, you know, he's put all of that together and he's really created, honestly, what a lot of people are going to call a masterpiece. Now, I think I would call the album a masterpiece as well. I mean, the album's been out for one day, and I know a lot of people are going to come and say, nah, maybe not a masterpiece yet, but honestly, I would call the album a masterpiece. I think it's incredible. I think he did an amazing job with it. I think it's everything that I needed it to be, that I expected it to be, and that I hope that it would be from him. You know, being my favorite MC, I've always been a fan of Jay when he gets introspective. There's a song called Mama Loves Me that he has that I love, and it's just one of those same types of songs where he gets really, really deep and introspective on it. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's something special. And we got a lot of introspection and a lot of maturation of Jay-Z, as he's called it previously, in this album. So by all means, you guys, listen to this album, take a look, you know, hopefully you guys get something out of it. The album is incredible. There's a lot of stuff covered in this album that I didn't even talk about. So by all means, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you personally liked about the album, what you maybe hoped you would have seen, maybe features you wish would have been on there, or producers you wish you would have worked with, or what have you. But tell me what you thought about it. Have you listened to it yet? If you have, I want you guys to share down below and let me know what you thought of it. And if you haven't listened to it yet, you know, let me know if you plan to listen to it, you know, why or why not. In any event, I go by the name of Kari. Hopefully you guys are doing well, and until I see y'all next time, I'm out.